Howdy, howdy. We are live this Friday evening for hashtag TQIF.
Yeah.
What do you call it, Starfleet Boy? Your
must see YouTube.
Must see YouTube. Yeah, our weekly event with Tex-Trek and Starfleet Boy. Together, we join forces.
Yes.
To celebrate everyone's weekend and celebrate these 23 weeks of Star Trek we've been given.
Our powers combined, we are nerds.
Captain Star Trek.
Captain Star Trek. I like that.
Yeah.
Captain Texas. Is there a Captain Texas in comics? Is there like such a thing?
No, but there should be. Because Texas used to be like an internationally recognized sovereign republic. So
shouldn't it be like Marshall, Texas, or something, just to kind of go with that whole cowboy
Sheriff
hat
Texas.
thing? Sheriff Texas. Yeah, you know.
I can dig it. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and
Ranger, Texas.
We're gonna go ahead and get started with our first half of the TQIF lineup. We have a live Tex-Trek podcast here to talk about the season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks. So we're just going to go ahead and kick that off. I'm Fathery.
This is Brian.
This is Starfleet Boy or Baby Bear.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard to Texas for the 118th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time.
I was going to try to do this, but I missed my chance.
The stars at night are big and bright. Yes. Shut up, Florida, man. Keep our sacred songs out of your dirty Floridian mouth.
Pee Wee Herman taught me that.
Yeah, did he also teach you that there's no basement in the Alamo? There actually isn't. I've been there. You know who else has been there is Dr. Bashir and Miles O'Brien. They said they were going to go take a picture in front of the real deal on Earth.
That's right.
Well, we're not here to talk about Deep Space Nine. We are here to talk about Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 10, the season finale, No Small Parts, written by showrunner Mike McMahan and directed by Barry J. Kelly.
This is a small part. It does not belong in this stream.
No what was that?
No.
Oh, the small part.
It's just a small part. It was a bad joke. It didn't land well.
I can tell both of y'all have a little bit of a wise guy in you tonight. The dad jokes are going to get crazy. But I'm really excited to talk about this. I had a lot of fun watching this and watching this entire season. And to start things off, I'm just going to recap the episode by reading the synopsis from Memory Alpha, and then I'll kind of expand on it with spoilers. The USS Cerritos encounters a familiar enemy. Tendi helps a struggling recruit find her footing. And that's actually a very terrible synopsis, but I'm glad that they were trying to like avoid spoilers in it. So the I'll just completely reword the synopsis and say so in this episode, Mariner's secret relationship to the captain gets outed. Everyone learns that they're mother and daughter. And to escape the ship, to get away from all that, she competes with Boimler for a transfer to another ship. And an alien race that has long been overlooked as a joke rears their ugly heads again as a serious and deadly threat. And spoiler alert, it's the Packlids. Who saw it coming? So I'm
I totally didn't see it coming. I was cracking up.
I figured the Packlids were going to show up in lower decks inevitably at some point in some form. I didn't predict this plot, but they were going to show up sooner or later.
It was great.
We should each all give an opening statement and just kind of talk about like our general impressions of and feelings on the episode, and then we'll break it down in a lot of detail. But I'll go ahead and go first. But to explain my reaction to this episode, I have to explain about the dog, the pet dog that me and my partner recently adopted. Me and her got this cute little, I think he's like half beagle, like Porthos, and half pug. We're not sure exactly what he is, but he's been this cute little sweetheart that he'd been living on the streets, and we're so happy to like have him in our home now. And he's so attached to Antonia that whenever she leaves, if she's only gone for just an hour or two, whenever she comes home, he is like so happy. I've never seen any creature react this happy, this gleeful. He'll be like whining because he's crying so hard, like tears of joy, and he just like runs around for like 5 or 10 minutes, just bouncing off the walls with just like the purest, most innocent joy and total bliss I've ever observed. And that was how I felt watching the season finale. I was bouncing off the walls, like screaming. I was giddy. I was just like so happy. In fact, I think that these last few episodes of Lower Decks have pushed it over the edge. This is my favorite modern Star Trek show, and I still like Picard and I still like Discovery, but I love Lower Decks the most out of all the new productions right now. So that was my reaction. Brian, what about you?
I guess my observation was, well, dang, one of Mariner's crazy plans finally got one of the crew members killed. Holy shit. So that was I mean, it was an authorized crazy plan, so I can't exactly say it all the blame rests on her shoulders or anything like that. But still, I was like, that was a gutsy way to end it. So, I like this episode. It was fun. It's definitely in my top half of episodes. I still like 8 and 9 better than this one, but this was fine. It was definitely the second half of the season is definitely better than the first half. They've got a little more character development and growth and grit to chew on here. And the earlier stuff adds some new context to the older stuff. I still love Picard and Discovery more than this show as far as new Trek goes, but this is a worthy addition to the, well, I hate to say canon because that brings up sore points, but worthy addition to the franchise. So
very cool. Starfleet boy, what about you?
Wouldn't you know it when I have to make my opening statement? I'll be right back.
That's fine. I'll just add onto what you were saying about how I still think that the previous episode, Crisis Point, episode 9, yes. I still think that's the greatest episode of the show.
Yes.
But this was such a good finale, and it worked so well. It's so satisfying, especially after the last few seasons of Star Trek, where my biggest complaint is that I feel like they stumble going across the finish line. And it was very rewarding for me to see a show that doesn't stumble. It struts across, cuts through the ribbon, takes the first place medal. It's like that meme, the guy like kissing the girl at the champagne bottle and all that.
I feel more like it cartwheeled across the finish line, and I'm not even sure if I like that, but I can't say that it didn't succeed at what it set out to do. It was absolutely planned, and it absolutely succeeded at its plan. So.
There we go.
I think the only thing I can add to what you guys have been saying is that like the payoff was incredible. Like you're absolutely right. The setup, everything, like the season was very well constructed. I watched the Sleepy Trekkie pointed out that it's actually less than 5 hours. I thought it was like a 5 hour, like if you wanted to binge it, but it's under 5 hours. So I watched all the episodes like yesterday leading up to the finale. Just like, when I went to go see all the Lord of the Rings films extended editions, like I had my, like it was a little party in my house. It was very exciting. My mom was participating until she fell asleep, and I watched it at like 2:30 in the morning, and I found myself like completely crying and just like into it, like when the Titan appears, and just it's just so epic, and I'm very hard pressed that my favorite show up until this point has been Star Trek Picard, and I'm very hard pressed to say without sincerity that without insincerity that Star Trek Lower Decks is the best show. It is. I think it is. It's like the best of the modern era.
So far, until Anson Mount gets here with his Strange New World. Everyone knows that's going to be the best.
Disco for life.
I still love. I will say, Star Trek Picard is my personal favorite because it's just such a deep like feeling of connection, but it's things that don't matter to anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, so in that sense, Star Trek Picard is still my favorite. Just saying. And now I got to mute myself. I'll be back.
Okay. Well, we are just going to go ahead and not exactly scene by scene, but kind of like storyline by storyline, dissect this episode, carve it up like a First Contact Day salmon, if you will. And we'll start off with the Boimler and Mariner stuff, and then we'll talk about the Tendi and new recruit and Rutherford stuff. And then to end things, we'll talk about the Pakled stuff and all the big action and the ending of the episode, the ending of the season. But we start things off with the Cerritos visiting a familiar planet to those of us that have watched our original series, Beta 3. And I was so surprised to see the return of the Archons. I was not expecting that.
Somebody should have made that joke too. The return of the Archons. Make the Archons great again. Yes. So,
but yeah, when Ransom was doing his captain's log and he said like Landrew, like when it said Beta 3 on the screen, I was like, wait a minute, Beta 3, isn't that a TOS? And then he says Landrew. I was like, oh, Return of the Archons. And they're in like their weird, like kind of Victorian or
cowboy,
kind of like 1800s American West clothing.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember cowboy shows were massive at the time TOS came out. So it was really, really cheap just to go to the cowboy wardrobe and grab some suits.
Yes. Just like it was cheap to go to the people making all the World War II movies and get Nazi uniforms.
Yes.
And it was cheap to go get like the Roman gladiator sword and sandal stuff. But yeah, the return of the Archons. The show using the continuity. It was interesting to see this dilemma of this planet had reverted back, and it was kind of answering a question that some people have asked for a long time. With shows like the original series, The Next Generation, what happens after the ship leaves, and we kind of have our heroes set these people on the course, and then they leave, and we don't really see what happens after that. So in this case, at some point, it didn't really stay consistent. They reverted back to their old ways, and they needed help again.
I was confused that they said that she says, I know doing second contacts is important, but it's also important to go follow up with these other civilizations. And I'm like, isn't that what second contact is following up with these civilizations? So I was confused. She seemed to think say they were two different things. So what is the difference between those two?
I have my theory that what they were trying to do with this episode is kind of set up a new MO for the second season, where I think we might be spending more time visiting these one-hit wonders, these planets that we've only seen one time in previous treks. I think we might in the future spend more time revisiting those, and this is kind of an example of what that might look like. It was kind of weird, some of the comments that Ransom made about the TOS era. Like when I first heard him say that,
Yeah.
it didn't really like phase me. I had to like stop and think about it. I was like, wait a minute, characters in the universe don't say
Oh
TOS.
yeah, no, it immediately red flagged when I heard it. I was like, oh, Fathery's gonna hate all the meta. So that was literally my first thought was Fathery's gonna hate the meta.
Yeah, that was I have really only like two little nitpicks of this episode that kind of stood out to me. Neither one was that big of an offense, but that was one of them. I think that was just a tad too far. Those old scientists, that doesn't even seem like that good of an acronym for TOS. They could do like the old Starfleet, or just do something a little better. The original Starfleet.
There's something kind of charming about the fact that it sounds like they threw it together and it's not really meant to be the right acronym, but nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
But yeah, Captain Freeman is experiencing frustration here. That they revisit this subject later, but the idea of like Starfleet is okay with some intervention, but it's something we've seen in Star Trek a lot, where sometimes our characters' hands are tied by the rule book, and the greatest Star Trek heroes are the ones who know when to break the rules and when not to.
She mentioned something later on, or maybe that scene earlier, Brian. I think I can clear up that confusion, where she said certain planets were considered like just we can only partially interfere. Like, so this planet's in like sort of like a sanctuary zone in the Federation, or in Federation space, so to speak, where it's like, yeah, we visit it from time to time, but they need to evolve a little more. But they never go back and check on it. Or maybe the duck blind mission stopped happening because of insurrection. Something could have happened. Because if I remember this episode, wasn't Sulu undercover on the planet with another officer, and they get into trouble, and then Sulu gets like, so they knew about this planet, but they never. And so she kind of Freeman laments that like, there's all these like worlds that we can only partially, we're protecting it, but we can't really do anything else. Like the civilization is kind of left to its own devices. And that's what I got out of it.
The only Liverpool ninja who is watching us live and is participating in the chat, he asked, what would TNG be then? And I guess the new guys, even though they haven't been new for a few decades.
Nice.
the next guys. The next guys.
That's amazing.
But we see Mariner down on the planet when Freeman can't leave because someone's still down on the surface. It's Mariner handing out art supplies to the kids. It's kind of similar to like the first episode when she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go help the people who need help here when no one's looking. And Boimler comes along. She thinks he's going to be just like a total buzzkill about it. But he's like, no, cool. I want to hand crayons to children. And we see like the two of them, being chummy, being friends, being brother and sister in arms, these Starfleet comrades. And I like that they're friendly now as opposed to their hostilities in the first few episodes.
My takeaway was that Boimler is much more chill about breaking the rules if he feels completely confident he's not going to get punished or suffer for them, because he's all chill. And when she asks why he's chill, he's like, oh well, because your mom will you can make sure your mom doesn't punish us. So as long as he's not going to get punished, he's actually pretty chill with breaking the rules. It's only his fear of punishment that keeps him following the rule book, which I thought was interesting.
Which makes it funny how the scene ends, not how he had hoped. But
no. I also want to say they are handing out reasonably period appropriate technology to the kids, so they aren't like trying to push their advanced stuff. Right. They're just crayons and stuff that they would have had with this tech level, which I thought was a nice touch. They could have been, there's no question of this stuff advancing their technology.
Yeah, they're not like giving them like a Nintendo Switch or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So
this is also interesting when the comm badge goes off when Ransom is talking to Boimler.
We get a detail.
Well, were you talking about like the little like vibration animation they did?
Yeah, and it's also like you can kind of see it looks raised. It's like a little more 3D and shiny than it normally looks, right?
Yeah, that is the best look we've got of the comm badge so far.
Well, what I liked about this is that it kind of plays around with that idea of like we're never really sure how the comm badges work and like when can they hear you and when can they not hear you. If I say like fathery to engineering, like does it not play that part to engineering? But then like I don't tell them who I am otherwise. So do they have like some way of like scene. That's weird. Like, don't poke at it too hard. But I thought it was kind of fun that they toy around with it a little bit.
I could assume now. Do they call Boimler or do they call Mariner?
Boimler.
Okay. I can certainly assume that a superior officer can override a communicator if he's not getting a response and just eavesdrop with a simple command. I don't know if it would work the other way up the rank tree, but downhill from rank, I'm sure you can just say, activate communicator and give me a feed, a continuous feed, which would be very useful if the person isn't answering. Are they in trouble? Or is there somebody holding a gun to their head? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, Mariner does not like the fact that Boimler has learned her secret about her and Freeman, and unbeknownst to them, everyone on the bridge is hearing this. Rutherford and Tendi hear it. The captain is so angry looking as this conversation's going on, and she goes to the ops station and beams them directly to the bridge. Well, Boimler is this is where he does that, does your captain mommy give you little captain kissies? And he starts making this kissy face, and then he materializes right in front of the captain.
That was the best. It's so good.
But yeah, so this starts off kind of the first plot we'll talk about, and that is the Mariner and Boimler competition that comes from Mariner's frustration of having her secret outed, and the frustration that her mom has as well, because they now are kind of in this awkward place with everyone on the ship. Commander Ransom comes in the ready room and he's like, Captain's daughter.
It is literally dehumanizing. She is now no longer a person. She is the captain's daughter. Though one could wonder if Ransom ever saw her as much more than, she's nice to look at. So,
well, he did try to whip her into shape a couple times. He tried to flex some commanding officer discipline.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's also what they get the the gag about being hard on her, but he's only hard on her because she makes him hard, but he's not hard right now, but he could be hard.
Then I love you. I like you both. You're both great. That's
he's kind of made a dick out of himself. But yeah, it's not just Ransom. It's everyone on the ship. We have a sequence of her going down the corridor, going back to her bunk, and just nonstop getting harassed by people, including Lieutenant Steve Levy, who is an Alex Jones type. I'm kind of disappointed that would be a yeah.
I was like, are we cool with that? Are we cool with Starfleet having officers? Apparently, what is that? A lieutenant? It looks like in the picture, who is a Wolf 359 denier. Is that
truther? He's a 359 truther.
Truther, whatever.
He denied some other stuff, but
yeah,
I think it might have also been a pot shot at Roberto Orsi, the writer of Star Trek, co-writer of Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness, because he is a big 9/11 truther guy. Used to be buddy with Alex Kurtzman. I think they went to high school together.
Know these things. That's crazy. I had no idea. That's nuts.
But yeah, he's
my opinion of this ship's crew just gets lower with every episode.
he's like, oh, Mariner, remember me? We went on a date last year, and you think you could show your mom these plans for decorating the captain's yacht? Then this other ensign wants to take a selfie with her. She's using the pad as a phone to take a selfie picture. And I really wanted to know what Mariner is going to say here, because she says, "Don't log that. I don't want to see that up on." And it's not like she's going to say Twitter, or Instagram, or Facebook, or something. I want to know what the 24th century social media is.
Yeah, that would be. It would have actually been nice to hear that. So.
It's all on subspace. Father, it's all subspace. It's all just subspace. It's like a big smorgasbord.
Well, it wouldn't be subspace chatter, because that implies an audio communication, not a visual thing. So it'd be subspace
clutter. It's called
Space
clutter.
It's like CLUTTR with no E.
Yes.
Like an app you get on your pad.
See,
The clutter app.
Library Computer Access Retrieval System started out as a social app and just grew to become the operating system for all of Starfleet. It all started with this social app.
It's so true.
It retrieved people who were working in various libraries across the Federation to hang out together. It was originally just librarians only.
So there were a couple of times in this episode. I think there's 4 different times. I'll try to cover all of them when we get to them. But I had like a loud verbal outburst of some form while watching this. I was like watching it like 2:00 in the morning, alone in my living room, and I yelled, I laughed, I had like some different reactions. Like when Boimler realizes he's making the kissy face right in front of the captain, and it cuts to the opening titles. I laughed out loud at that, and then here in the corridor when Dr. Tiana says, "I'd love to snag," when she's asking about like, do you think your mom would be okay with like me and Shax making a love connection, and then she says, "I'd love to snag that Bajoran beefsteak with my coital hooks." Like
way too much
on her face. Yeah, like I think like I yelled out loud. I was like gross, but I was kind of like laughing and grossed out at the same time.
It was so good, but way too much. I did not need to know that that Caitians have coital hooks.
Not to kink shame the furry community, but yeah, the idea of like sex with Dr. Tiana is both like insanely funny and insanely disgusting to me.
She actually meows at one point later too, which was
funny. Oh yeah, we also have like Commander Billups, the engineer, handing out the hand pies, and Chief Lundy. We saw him on the holodeck last week, but he's kind of like their Chief O'Brien, I think. But he's like, Mariner, you go, girlfriend, or something. No, I think he says, looking good, girlfriend. And Shax shows up with obviously a batleth to give to Mariner. Everyone's trying to either like get a favor from her or kiss up to her. No one is treating her like herself anymore. And this includes Boimler, who's like, maybe you could get I guess he wants her to get her mom to do it. Get your mom to sign this like letter of recommendation so I can get that transfer to the other ship, the Sacramento. And that gives Mariner the idea, hey, I can get away from all this if I get the transfer. If we get straight-laced Mariner.
Does she really have to try to get a transfer? Would her mom have said no if she said, I think it would be healthier for us if we were on different ships? Would her mom have said no to the transfer?
Well, I think it's more of like getting the other people to accept her.
Yeah, but if mom writes a recommendation letter that just highlights all the time she saved the ship and doesn't mention all the time she screwed up, somebody would take her as an ensign. I mean, it's not like they're looking for a department head or something. They just need an ensign slot on somebody's ship. So I just felt like she just had to ask for this at any time, I would think.
Freeman actually says something later about how Mariner's like the most demerited officer, or in Starfleet, like, or something like that. I get the impression that like no one else, she has a reputation, no one else really like.
See, nobody ever brings that. Almost no one off, except people on the ship, bring that up. I think that might have been an exaggeration, you're the dumbest officer in the fleet kind of thing. You're the most demerited officer in the fleet kind of thing. That's something that isn't necessarily factually true, but I don't know. Maybe it is factually true. I took it as a hyperbole, I think is the word.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't like update her memory alpha page just yet and say like in 2380 Mariner was the most demerited Starfleet officer in the fleet, like
or at least update it very carefully. Captain Freeman's claimed that she was the most exactly. So that it's
well, regardless, I think what I was trying to say though is that maybe there's a degree of like Freeman wants her around because she feels like protective of her in a sense, like my daughter's failed, I need to keep her close. I don't know. There might be something like that, or an arrangement. I don't know, but ultimately, like it was cool to finally get all that out, though. It was really neat.
Well, as there's a reveal later on in this episode that made a lot of what I see with Mariner make more sense to me, and I'm not sure if I'm just reading too much into it, but when we get to it, I will be sure to point it out. So,
I like the design of Mariner that they animated when like the sleeves get rolled down and she neatens up her hair, and then this like, straight-laced Mariner, and I don't know, I just found it like really cute.
Yep.
And she's even like doing like Boimler's dorky power walking from the second episode from Envoys in the corridor they go to Commander Ransom's office, which is more of his workout room. And they're both putting in for the transfer. That's where Mariner is like, oh, you're stuck between a rock and a kiss-ass place, because Boimler has an excellent record and would be a great candidate, it sounds like. But, he wants to do a favor for Mariner because he wants to kiss ass to the captain's daughter.
What is he expecting a promotion? What exactly is he trying to get out of this? Is the captain doing something awful in his life that he wants to get free of? Is she holding him back from taking command of his own ship? Is she making him work 2 shifts or work Delta shift and he hates Delta shift? Or what is it he's trying to get out of this? I wonder. As XO, he has an enormous amount of power over the ship, and aside from that mini micromanaging episode, there doesn't seem to be a lot of indications that she's really a hard-ass captain who's a nightmare to be around.
Yeah, well, they have suggested before that he does kind of like suck up to her. Like the holodeck Ransom told Boimler last week, oh yeah, the captain's got a sweet tooth. Cookie's a good move. I've done it myself before.
Yeah.
So
I just wonder why is he sucking up to her?
I don't know. I think we're just supposed to accept this as like a cultural thing of like, the go-getters, the people who want to like succeed in their careers are going to, sometimes you're going to have personalities that like to kiss ass to the boss.
He's a lot like Riker, but also like hyperbolized with some of his behavior, hyperbolized, of course. But like, I get that feeling that he actually like maybe is trying to please Captain Freeman because he also really wants to serve her well, like to be a good officer. So he's kind of always stressing about like, what would she like the most? What decision, should I make that will please her the most?
We have a live comment from Stress Free K, who suggests that Ransom is a total suck up with all women. Yeah, maybe he has like kind of like that.
He's trying to get in her pants. Okay,
maybe.
Fair enough.
I don't know, but it's possible. I wouldn't put it past this guy.
It occurs to me that Ransom is kind of Boimler on steroids, like with all the macho aggressiveness, so there's no lack of confidence issues, but they really are kind of both trying to be this super awesome Starfleet officer who gets the job done and kisses up to people and to their superiors and all of that. They're
both. I think it's a fine line between like being friendly and ingratiating, right? Like that's kind of the thing that Riker nails. He's friendly. But here, Ransom hasn't nailed it yet.
But both Ransom and Boimler, they both have been shown to be effective. They both can, kick ass and be badass Starfleet officers at times, which I think that's essential that they maintain that even if these people are occasionally a little defective, they're all still pretty good at something and they can accomplish a lot. But so
they all bought big disadvantages on their character sheets, and they all put all their points into one specialization.
Yeah,
so they're all really good at one thing and really bad at something else.
Yeah, the role-playing analogies work pretty well when applied to these characters. But Ransom says he's got to think about this. He's got to work out and think about it. Leave me alone. I'm thinking.
I do love that his office has a whole gym thing going on. I just think that's charming and absolutely believable that some Starfleet officers would do that. I really like that.
And so this makes this big conflict between Boimler and Ransom, where Boimler is like, "Why did you apply to that? I really wanted this transfer." We find out later that there's more to the story as to why he's angry. She's like, "You have no place to be mad at me. The only reason why I'm trying to leave is because of you and you letting my secret out," which it was kind of an accident, the way he both found out about it and released that information. But
A, he shouldn't have gotten into her logs. B, she shouldn't have hijacked his holodeck program. If either one of those things hadn't have happened, this wouldn't have occurred. So.
I like that they call the Sacramento the Sac.
Yeah, I like that too.
It's literally,
I like that abbreviation. And I also I think I've used the term before, but I say like Cali class starships because a lot of times I just refer to California as Cali. And I like that we hear that said later in this episode. But unless y'all have like anything else to say about like this early stuff with Mariner and Boimler, we can move on to some of the other characters.
I had a bunch of stuff about Mariner's arc at the end, but it's after all the fireworks are over, so maybe we should hold it.
Well, let's talk about Tendi and Rutherford and what they're getting up to in this episode. Tendi is excited to be orientation liaison to a new recruit, kind of the role reversal from the first episode where she was the new recruit. And I like when we see her in the shuttle bay waiting for the new recruits to show up. It's that guy who greeted her who was like, move it along, lower deck. He's still working down there. Yeah, the guy with like the receding hairline. And they also set up here the Boimler, not Boimler, the Rutherford. Alternate mode things where he's changing to like sometimes he'll be in cowboy mode and talk like a cowboy, or he'll be in like extremely optimistic mode and just be like super optimistic about everything.
I can only assume that the Vulcans not understanding emotion, but realizing that this was a cyborg unit was going to go into a human would want to make sure that all the emotions were available because that's what humans want. So this is what Vulcans think human emotions are like. And this is their interpretation of how they literally just switch modes, angry mode, happy mode, sexy mode, that so they're trying to make that. I was like, I was imagining the Vulcans writing this code and having a good laugh.
Yeah, Brian, I love that. That's both like well thought out and also pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Alex Kurtzman, I know you listen to us. You need to hire Brian.
It's true. This I agree with as well. And also, I think it's just hilarious that they wouldn't bother to shape the ear to be a human ear. They left it as a Vulcan ear. They knew, like, they're like, no, we will not change the ear.
Well, we get a new character on board the ship as an exocomp, which you might recognize from Next Generation. So that was a surprise to see
with the uniform painted on.
It's like the exact same design. It might have been tweaked a little bit, but I know it's a little bit more animated, so it can be expressive in animation. But it's pretty much the exact same design, and they paint the uniform onto it. I like that. I thought that was a neat way to show this thing in Starfleet, and they never really like point out like, oh, like exocomps are in Starfleet. Now I like that they just kind of accept it. It's just like, yeah, we're Starfleet. We accept everybody.
Yeah. I was surprised to learn that exocomps are sapient. I knew they were sentient, but self-aware and able to, interact with their environment in complex ways. But I thought they were more like, say dogs or something in their complexity levels. To learn that they can have conversations and get their feelings hurt and stuff is a whole nother thing. So, well,
there's
I guess
tiny
dogs
little
can get their
in here. There's a little detail they put in here that kind of explains it. If you're willing to like, take like the 10% that they give you and like think up the other 90% on your own. But we know that this thing is at least a second generation exocomp. It has a parent. It has a father. So I'm thinking that like, just as like computing technology, like Moore's law and processing power.
It's exponential pretty much. Yeah. So 20 years would have been a pretty significant leap for them.
Right. So I think that it's probably like more evolved. Was like they leave that door open for you to explain that. But I think like the third time I made like a big outburst while watching this episode was when this thing tells Tendi its name. The mathematically perfect, cutest name possible is Peanut Hamper, and then like Tendi's reaction where she's like Peanut Hamper, and then she's like, "Oh, I love it." It's like that lower deck psych out thing that like they keep doing. They do that so much in the show, but it's effective on me. It always catches me off guard.
Yeah, well, it plays to our our suspicious preconception. We're thinking this is just going to take all the tired cartoon jokes that we've seen before and wrap them up in Star Trek wallpaper. And so they play to that. They mess with our heads by actually starting to look like they're going to do the same cheesy joke that we've seen in cartoons before, and then zigging at the last moment. So they are at least aware of their suspicious Brians watching them. So I also earlier you had a picture with a front view of Peanut, and I thought, the arrowhead should be pointed forward and not up. I know that that's how they wear it on the uniforms, but it looks enough like a ship. It should be pointed forward and not up.
Like a little pinstripe.
Yeah, like they have on the side of the outer hulls of the ship.
Totally.
So, sorry, minor. I don't even know if you can call that a nitpick, but just how I would have done it. Let's put it that way. The idea that that Peanut spent all this time analyzing all these different cultures before choosing Peanut Hamper as a name is definitely a callback to Douglas Adams, where they have a whole little piece about how Ford Prefect spent all this time analyzing humanity before deciding that Ford Prefect would be a nicely innocuous name that nobody would think was weird. So that was very much a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy riff there. And I'm fine with them reusing the joke. It's been the statute of limitations has certainly expired.
Yeah, that was like over 30 years ago.
Yeah. But I did enjoy. Oh, look, Douglas Adams, shout out.
It would have been Douglas Adams wrote for Doctor Who. It would have been really great if Douglas Adams ever wrote for Star Trek. That would have been cool.
I'm not sure if that could have worked or not.
Yeah, they're pretty different. I don't think your typical, like they're both such different shows. I don't think there's a lot of overlap with the writers. They're very different talents, different skills to make good Doctor Who stories from what it takes to make good Star Trek stories. Well, but he is a competent enough writer. I think he could do. He could have done something at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been awesome to read, but like Lower Decks, would it actually feel like Star Trek? I don't know, but I'm sure it would have been
a novel. Would have been a better. If he had written a Star Trek novel, I think that would have been the most interesting thing to do.
Sir, I certainly would buy it, and I'm sure it would be a joy to read. I don't know if he's really the type of person who would get Star Trek, but or at least want to get it. Maybe I don't know if that would be his thing.
Well, we also see Tendi and Rutherford hanging out in like that little cargo bay area that they've been in a lot this season with the shuttle that they keep working on that they never really comment on or do anything with until later in this episode, the Sequoia. But I didn't know what was going on with Peanut Hamper here when she says something like
dilithium.
That dilithium was better than I thought. So is that what we're supposed to think, that like exocomps get drunk on dilithium?
I don't know. Was she? I guess I didn't understand that. I thought she was just knocking things over. But she is supposed to be inebriated. I missed.
Well, she says that dilithium was better than I thought, and I'm like, well, I don't really know what that means, but okay.
It felt like the joke felt like to me like she had consumed dilithium and it made her high or drunker or something, and now she was like stumbling around a little. She couldn't do her job right.
So maybe like foreshadowing that she might not actually be a very ethical Starfleet officer.
Yep.
Perhaps.
Perhaps
it resonates a bit with what we will see in Picard about people getting the Federation citizens in large getting fed up with AIs running around in them. There's already a little bit of potential friction there. Rutherford and Tendi are willing to forgive her, but you can see how Peanut could be aggravating to other types of people. So
yeah, I would support a synth ban if I had to work alongside this thing. But no, I guess we should talk about that when we actually see Peanut Hamper in work in sick bay, and it turns out like, oh, this exocomp is like really good at this stuff, and I like that they brought in something from the Next Generation episode where they can like replicate a little tool on like the nose of the exocomp to do whatever task they need, and she's doing some micro suturing. What is it?
Something like that, yeah.
That's right.
When you like stitch up, I guess like internal organs that have been like operated on, and skin grafted. Like she shows Dr. Tiana a new skin grafting technique, and they do that fake out thing again where you think Tendi is upset, like, oh, this recruit is like so much better than I am, and the patient that she's talking to is like, oh, well, you know, cheer up, I'm sure like you're still useful and stuff. And she's like, no, like I'm excited that you know, this person that I'm supposed to mentor is like so good and so excellent at her job. And then when she's like cheerleading her and meld that flesh, girl.
And again, we have these characters that have huge flaws and huge advantages. You know, they're really good at some stuff and really terrible at other things.
Dr. Tiana's eyes, I liked how they widen and like just like a real cat, like when she got excited about like slit. Like it went from the slit to the kind of a circular shape, and I thought that was a great touch as well in this scene.
The animation throughout the show has been incredibly detailed, and it really does feel like you know, like a high budget animated sitcom. Like the designs are always really well thought out for the most part. They incorporate so much detail, so many little background nods to like previous design mentality in Star Trek. So you can tell people are putting a lot of thought and effort and research into the stuff, and then little character stuff like that, and it's like little animation things, little subtle movements. It really is a high budget, well done. Like all of the modern Star Trek shows. I don't know if y'all saw like the new clip that they put out for Star Trek Discovery as part of the New York Comic Con panel that we're going to talk about on a live stream tomorrow. By the way, people checking this out live on Friday, we're going to have a live stream tomorrow on Saturday. More about that later. But oh my God, the CGI in this Discovery Season 3 clip is just amazing. And it's like, wow, how is this a TV show? It looks like a movie.
Well, I mean, what if they're dropping 8 million an episode? That's definitely, you know, motion picture territory there. And
do you guys have the Discovery seasons on Blu-ray?
I do. Yeah. I've currently, if you're following me on Twitter, I'm rewatching seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery now, and I put out a tweet about each episode. I love the way they look on Blu-ray.
I just bought Picard, and I didn't realize how much you miss on streaming. Like, there's so much incredible detail in the effects. Like that, I already thought the effects were good, but now I'm like excited to get to the last episode and see if there's any detail that that doesn't come across, like in the ships, for example, in the Armada or anything like that. You know, it's gonna be cool to. I had no idea that it was that different. It's significant, like when you watch on streaming versus physical media. So I highly recommend. If you love one of these Star Trek shows, get them on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's always good to support like the Star Trek merchandise that you like. That's one way to make sure we get more of it. But, so let's talk about the Pakled stuff that we've saved for kind of the second half of our podcast tonight. But I thought it was so powerful, this opening sequence. This is near the beginning of the episode. This is right when we come back from the opening titles, in the Kala system with the USS Solvang. It's commanded by Captain Dayton, who we met in, was the episode Not Much Ado About Boimler, but it's the one with where Mariner's friend is the substitute captain. It was episode 6, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember the title, but
episode 7 is episode 7.
I love that they're in socks here.
See, this is the other part that bothered me a little bit. I kind of didn't like the TOS joke, and I thought this joke went a little too far about like she's yelling at people for like wearing shoes, and she's freaked out about like the plastic. It's like on new electronics, how everything comes with like that plastic on it that you can peel off.
I was okay with the plastic, but she calls it the tactical station, and it's clearly just the arm of her chair. It's not the tactical station. So what is she?
Oh, nice.
I am so confused by why she called it that. And the shoes too bugged me, because the whole point of the shoes is to protect your feet and to allow you to, you know, run faster without hurting your feet, which in a crisis can be important. I think
Which is why they all died.
I think schools actually have a policy that you're not allowed to have your shoes off in the classroom in case everyone suddenly needs to get out of the building because of a fire drill or something. So yeah, having the Starfleet officers on duty have to wear their shoes struck me as very strange.
I'm just noticing for the first time that they're lined up against the walls, the shoes, like when you come into like someone's house. Like I never noticed that.
Yeah, I didn't spot that either.
I think this is like commenting on how like some people are kind of like I've heard the term before, shoe Nazis, where like you come over to their house and they like demand you take off your shoes, which I know like in some places, like if you go to Japan or go to Sweden or a bunch of countries, this is kind of the norm. You take your shoes off when you get to someone's house, and you're kind of a jerk if you don't do it. So I think it's just kind of a commentary on that. By the way, like when I first moved into the place where I live now, I tried to be a shoe Nazi with people, and like I gave up because I just got tired like having to like be the enforcer. Like, hey, do you mind taking your shoes off? So I just gave up on it. But I used to have a Swedish girlfriend, and I picked up on that from her.
You didn't. You don't serve aboard Japanese naval vessels without shoes, though.
That's true. Yeah, they used to have a badass navy, so they probably know a thing or two about like serving on ships.
Yeah.
But I just think that she's like the worst captain in the universe. Like her, she was like set. she's like every like she's hilarious in that way. I mean,
well, I don't know. The shoe thing isn't as weird as Freeman's obsession with micromanaging that we got earlier this season. That was definitely worse than the shoe thing.
She's been rescued before because like she's a disaster captain. Like and even Freeman was laughing about it, where she was like, "Oh, you know, she probably pushed the wrong button, and so now we have to go. You know, it's a half distress signal. You know, like she's like kind of like the joke of this fleet of this.
I guess how many times did the Enterprise need another Starfleet ship to come rescue it? They never showed up. They were always on their own. They always had to figure. But there were lots of times where they would have said, "Oh, thank God, it's the Sutherland or whatever." You know,
that's true.
Well, let's talk about the ship that shows up here and how it's presented so scary and powerful. And no one has died in Lower Decks until this episode. This is the first time we see death in the show. And when like the jokes stop and the danger is on, like I really felt it. It was impactful.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how kind of overwhelmed I was. It seemed just like the ship totally overpowered. We see like these scary grabbing arms, which kind of doesn't make sense in the universe with tractor beams. Then when you find out who is in control of the ship, then you're like, oh yeah. And then just like the violence of like the ship exploding, of it like going into warp and like killing itself, and the shot of the explosion and then like the fade to black, it was haunting. I was just like, oh wow, like I felt those deaths because they've held out on anyone dying for so long, and I was like, there is like a serious danger that the characters I care about are going to run into, and they're not scared of killing people in this episode.
The first time I saw it, my first reaction was, aha, they're going to introduce the new Lower Decks big bad, something unique and special that they can do whatever they want with as a reoccurring villain. And they still might actually do that with the Packlands. I don't think anyone else is going to use the Packlands. So, you know, they can do whatever they want probably with them. So it could actually still happen that way, that the Packlands are a reoccurring menace. But
that would be hilarious. You have TOS, the Klingons, TNG, the Romulans, and the Borg, and then Lower Decks is the Packlands. Like,
no, it works really well, actually.
Yeah, totally. No, I totally buy that.
I'll let you continue.
Oh, that's all I'd say about that. But this kind of reminded me of the 2009 Star Trek. With the sun and like the Narada, you know, kind of crippled. It's a different
the George Kirk stuff.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. It had a vibe of that, but not, you know, it's not the same scenario, but it's got that kind of like the shot visually. It like is reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it has that same type of scope. It's that heightened level of scope, and it's tied with the kind of like the emotional event of like when that ship explodes. It's like an exclamation point. It's like, bam! It kind of hits you in the face. It was very
a
effective.
shocker, to be sure. Yeah, like it hit pretty hard. I was very shocked that they killed anyone in Lower Decks.
Yeah, because like I thought this show was a funny one. Why were people dying?
Right,
now?
exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, they did manage to get a partial distress call, which was received by Captain Freeman, and so the Cerritos is going to go to investigate. And by the way, for some reason, the subtitles on my CBS All Access app on my PlayStation weren't working when I tried to watch this episode. So the first time I watched it, I had like no closed captions, which I normally watch everything with the captions on. And I didn't catch this line of Commander Ransom when he says the Titan's in the area. He says like, well, we don't have to go deal with this. The Titan is nearby too, or something like that.
Right.
That went over my head the first time I watched this, and I was glad that worked to my advantage because I was surprised when I saw the Titan later.
I heard it and I was like, okay, another Easter egg for Father E's list. That's all I thought when it went by was.
They're unsuspectingly going to warp to the Kala system, which if you watched Samaritan Snare, they mention in that episode. So it's actually a hint for the really keen listeners out there.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, Freeman's just like, oh yeah, this other captain is an idiot. Just someone hit the wrong button. They sent off a distress signal on accident. We'll go warp over there. We'll go embarrass her.
I guess we have to assume she thinks that the wrong button was something that shut off their subspace array. Because, of course, the first thing you would do if you got a partial distress call would be to call and confirm it. And if you didn't get an answer, then you'd probably go investigate. So I guess when they say wrong button, it means wrong button that switched off the whole subspace radio. So.
Again, that was very well thought out, Brian. I hadn't even questioned that in my mind. I hadn't even had any suspicion of that, and I didn't question it. But you've already both questioned and answered. That's how many steps ahead of me you are.
Well, thank you.
but speaking of Star Trek 09, Starfleet boy, what about here when the Cerritos shows up to the aftermath? It was in 09 with the Enterprise went to Vulcan.
Even the saucer section that floats past the view screen or past the frame here, coming up, is very reminiscent of that whole thing. It's true.
Yeah. When we see a California class ship destroyed, that really emphasizes this could be what happens to the Cerritos. This could be their fate. It just happened to another ship. It just happened they're equal. And the ship is really scary the way that they show it. The design is really neat, even though it kind of looks like a big scary turkey. We have some better looks of it later, but here when it's in the shadows, the way that they photograph it, I know that there's no actual photography, but the way that they frame it on screen, it looks big and intimidating.
Which is sort of a problem when they reveal who they are, but maybe I'll let you get to that part.
But I like that it does have part of their traditional pack-led ship, which was
that was the point.
Model they've reused a lot.
Yeah, it's got a pack-led ship sticking out of the front of it, but it looks like it's too big compared to the Cerritos. The scale factor is wrong for it, so it's got part of a.
And I guess the scale of that model varied a lot over its various reuses.
I suppose, and this is a world where bird of preys can range from 700 meters long to 50 meters long. Yeah. So I suppose that I should.
The Defiant changes its shape from time to time as well.
Well,
can I throw out a wild card theory here? Everyone's wondering what happened to Lore. We don't hear about him in Star Trek Picard. He's never mentioned. Lore he couldn't do it for the Borg. He couldn't take over anyone else, so he had to go and he had to take over the Pack-Leds, and he's helped them get this crazy advanced technology.
Doesn't Data kill Lore?
He appears to. Yeah, he certainly ends up in a Starfleet vault somewhere. Now it is possible Lore was rescued by Pakleds. And oh my God, those poor Pakleds. I've never felt more sorry for some bad guys in Star Trek in my life than when Laura said I was rescued by some Pakleds. But perhaps he left something that allowed the Pakleds to get a leg up, some gadget he built for them, that would auto assimilate tech for him. And then when he left, some Pakleds, the surviving Pakleds who didn't get killed by Lore, started using it. You could kind of string this together if you want.
He's probably like, what can I do to thank you? And they're like, make us strong. He's like, here you go. Like, you could keep
well,
this,
I suppose that's true. Lore is the sort of person who would give a 5-year-old a handgun just to watch the shit go down. Yes, he would kill a 5-year-old without a second thought, but he might also just give the 5-year-old a handgun and tell him to go run and go play with his friends.
He might have done some experiment. It'd be like, what happens when you the Pakleds this technology? But I like this moment here where when they're captured by the grabbing arms, the biting arms, whatever Shax calls them, and Commander Ransom says, "Go to warp, get us out of here." And Captain Freeman is like, "No, that's what Davenport would have done, and look how they ended up. So we need to do the opposite of the obvious thing to do and shut down the engine."
Yeah. They mentioned the idea that the Pakleds, and this comes back later on, that the Pakleds have gotten more clever or more advanced. And at first I was like, what? But then I kind of said, it is sort of the tortoise and the hare thing. Starfleet is the hare bouncing all over the place madly with no long-term extension span. So Captain Freeman says later on. And the Pakleds are the tortoise, slowly poking along. But if you ignore them long enough, they will get very far along on their arms race.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and we haven't really touched base. I mean, we see some in the background on DS9 a little bit and some of the earlier seasons. But other than that, we haven't really touched base with the Pakleds for a good while. So who knows what they've been up to. I liked this moment when Mariner comes onto the bridge and she sees her mom injured on the floor of the bridge, and she's concerned, runs over to her. We just saw in the last episode how protective that holographic Mariner would be of her mom when her mom's life is in danger, and they show a lot of that in actuality outside of the holodeck in this episode.
Never mind. Sorry, continue.
Well, we get the reveal finally when the Pakled captain takes off his barbarian helmet.
Yeah.
And I got a big kick out of this. I was not expecting it. I didn't notice any of the clues, the Kala system or the Pakled ship. But when he pulled off the helmet and I saw those weird eyebrows and I guess balding, pasty forehead, I immediately recognized it as a Pakled and knew exactly what was going on. I was like, oh my God, what? These are Pakleds on steroids. How did this happen? I liked how caught off guard and surprised I was by it. What did y'all think about it?
I thought it was Pakleds and lower decks go together like chocolate and peanut butter. I thought, yeah, sure. And once I thought about it and came up with my tortoise hare analogy, I was fine with them having these ridiculous ships. So.
We want your ship pieces to add to our ship pieces, and then we'll have all the ship pieces.
I love that they keep calling them the Enterprise, that they just can't get it through their head that this is not the Enterprise.
That's what, who does that? When we're talking about Discovery, we're talking about Voyager or other shows where the ship ain't called Enterprise. I'm surprised he never did it on Lower Decks, but Dave does that all the time. He'll say the Enterprise, Voyager. So Dave, you're a bit of a Pakled when you do that. Do better.
I like Sean from Trek on the Tube. The mask he's wearing, you called him Sander Clegane from Game of Thrones, which I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, they do kind of look like that. But yeah, they have these cool visual of these grabby arms ripping the ship apart. And I guess the reason why you would use these instead of a tractor beam is because they want to physically rip the ship apart and then harvest the components from what they're able to break down with their grabby arms. And Boimler points out that they've done this to at least 30 different previous ships. They had components from 30 different races on their monstrous war turkey battleship.
War turkey.
Stress Fee has a great post about they're in the chat line over there about the which one is let's see above that one.
Oh,
that one. Oh my goodness.
Stress-free K in the chat says,
Stress-free. Yeah.
Laughing out loud, Lore is too embarrassed to show his face as king of the Packlets. That's not a crown I would be proud to wear myself.
Headcanon accepted. I got to work that into my game.
But this is also part of the theme of the episode when Commander Ransom says, "I thought the Packlets were kind of a joke," and Captain Freeman says, "Well, it looks like they aren't a joke anymore," and it's kind of that idea of like. Overlooking and underestimating things, Landrew's taken care of. The people on Beta 3 are going to be fine, or even like the show Lower Decks. Oh, it's just kind of like that goofy comedy show. There's not going to be much to come of it, or Ensign Mariner, Ensign Boimler. They're just like this dumb ensign. They'll never like amount to anything great. It's that common idea of just dismissing something as a joke, and the harm that can come from that. Oh, they have those laser cutters also that come down. So yeah, I guess I don't know the way that these ships work and capture other ships and break them down doesn't really make a ton of sense. But that's actually part of the story that they are being operated by idiots.
Yeah, that does help explain. Hand wave a lot.
Yeah. But this is where the captain says, "Okay, I need help. I need one of your crazy ideas that I hate that'll break all the rules, but it'll save the day."
And it will get somebody killed.
Yeah, well, I think the idea is like they didn't have many other alternatives.
Yeah. I mean, nobody had a better plan than Mariner, so I would have done the same thing and gone with it. But it is interesting that Mariner, finally gets somebody killed with these crazy plans of hers, even if it is the only plan they've got and the best plan they've got. And I kind of wonder if she's going to deal with that. Is she going to say, "I should have come up with a better plan"? Are we going to deal with the fallout of that on any level?
Well, I think that the way that the death plays out, and we'll get to it in a moment, but I think Shax has so much agency going into that. And to me, as I was watching, I was like, this is what Worf always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And this is like Shax getting to do what he wanted to do. And I don't really think there would be like
he even says it. He's like, I finally get to do what I want to do.
This is the best day of my life. So I don't know. I don't know if Mariner reflecting on that with guilt would be I guess you could make a story out of that, but it doesn't seem like a very obvious route for me. Thinking about what these writers might do in reaction to this, I don't think that's the most likely path.
Well, I agree, because the show doesn't want to get too down, and that would just be down, quite a downer. But so I tend to agree that they're not going to go there, but I kind of think it would have been interesting if they had. Maybe not this episode, but like in the premiere of season 2.
But I like that moment when like her sleeves get rolled up, the hair gets messy, and then her and Boimler and Rutherford figure out this plan of like, if the Packlets are able to connect all these different systems, they must have some type of like very compatible software, which is probably like low security, and they can infiltrate it with a virus. I wasn't sure why Ransom says a virus like that would have to be designed by a what is it, like an immoral genius or something like that.
Yeah. Well, if you're making if you're making programs that are designed to hack and break into and sabotage other computer systems, that is an ethically dubious thing to do just in general. I'm not saying there's a department of Starfleet dirty tricks that does that, but it is definitely a bit ethical to have build a machine that does nothing but ruin other people's stuff and do it in a sneaky way. So I can see the unethical and the idea that it would be able to do all of this, that it needs some sort of genius, just kind of goes along with the intelligence is everything in Star Trek as far as problem solving goes.
Yeah, the actual line, I have it in my notes here. The actual line is need a morally corrupt genius to whip up a code like that.
Yeah.
And the morally corrupt genius that they go to is Badgie, who is on my shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm wearing the other shirt. Awesome.
I just have a regular old Star Trek shirt with the Enterprise E and the D and the null on there. And again, we get Badgie, another dangerous AI, which nicely foreshadows some of the stuff we learn is going to happen in Picard. These dangerous AIs, start causing more, these AIs are decided to be more trouble than they are worth. So,
and a callback to like Moriarty and that kind of thing.
Yes,
it's unfortunate that Rutherford runs into the holodeck when he's toggling through his modes, and he's currently stuck in extremely optimistic mode because Badgie is able to use that to talk him into like deactivating the safety protocols. He says, "Okay, I'll help you, but you got to deactivate the safety protrols."
Well, it's the same thing as Mariner's plan. What choice did they have? There was no plan B. This was it.
Yeah.
It was either this or nothing.
I feel like he wouldn't have been as eager to agree to like, oh, okay, you're not going to kill me. I believe you. But then, as soon as he deactivates the safety protocols, Badgie's like, oh yeah, I already made 3 different viruses to take down the
little skull and crossbones on him. I love it.
And Rutherford's like, you were monitoring the comms, and it's like really scary and creepy and funny. But Badgie's like, I'm always monitoring the comms.
Yes.
It's like, you just need to delete this thing, Rutherford. You just need to delete this, purge the system, do a factory reset on the holodeck hard drive or whatever. Like, get rid of this.
Well, that's a question. Is Badgie actually dead at the end of this, or did Badgie get back into the Cerritos' main computer core at the last moment?
Is a writer's room optional at this point?
Yes.
No,
Badgie thinks at the speed of light. So with an optronic computer system, it can be pretty freaking fast. So.
I like how the pack lids are beaming in slow, probably because like they are slow and probably don't have like the best transporters, but they do look scary and intimidating when they come over with like their helmets and their battle axes, and they're trying to evacuate the bridge. And I loved this action sequence that we get here that had a bunch of Easter eggs, but all that contraband that Boimler had in the first episode, she had it all hidden in this corridor, and she dumps it all out, and then they arm up with these weapons that were established in the first scene of the season, and they pay it off. Now these were like Chekhov's batleth and Endurian ice knives. And I know it's technically like Sulu's sword, but it's like Chekhov's sword.
Yeah, they could have actually made that joke too if they'd wanted to. But I've got a knife that belonged to Chekhov. They could have stuck that in the first episode. It would have been awesome. My first question with this, or my first observation, is every other time bad guys have shown up or problems have shown up, everybody just whips phasers out of nowhere in the standard Bugs Bunny fashion. And
they have to go to the armory. That's right.
Yeah, this time there's no phasers. And I'm like, but every other time in this season, if they needed a phaser, it was just there in their, it wasn't even on their belt. They were just suddenly in their hands, or, there was a phaser. Yeah. And I was like, that seems a little poorly, like there should have been like, oh, they're using a Tetrion field that makes our phasers not work, or some quick line to explain why they're not doing what they've done in every other episode this season. That said, this was the key for me, was a huge part of unlocking the mystery of Mariner. Mariner is not just occasionally does black market a little bit of smuggling on the side. She's got this whole ship filled with this crap. This is a major enterprise. She spends a huge amount of her time smuggling illegal goods and providing them on this space going black market. And now the fact that she stays on her mom's ship, where her mom will provide her with some protection and look the other way when she catches her, if she ever catches her selling a few black market items, items makes so much more sense. This is why she's on this ship, is because this is where she can maximize her profits on the black market. Also, somewhat disturbingly, most of the stuff that falls out of there is replicatable as far as I can determine. So its only value would be that it is handmade rather than replicated. And most of it would actually be legal to own. I don't think batliths are illegal to own in the Federation, for example. So their value must be in that they were both handmade by some sort of artisan and also stolen. So this is all stolen stuff, or majority of it is stolen stuff that she either stole herself or more likely paid somebody, some other thief or fence to get from. And I'm like, wow, my whole understanding of her character just kind of blew open when I saw that it was more than just one crate of stuff as a one-off gag, but that she's got loads of this stuff. And they even reference it later on, how her operation and network works.
But Riker's a part of it.
Yes,
not to mention Riker's one of her connections.
And so I'm like, wow, are we okay with her selling stolen stuff on Starfleet? And when she doesn't even need the money, she's just basically doing it to either be super rich or just for the fun of it. Is that something that bothers us, or are we like, no, that's cool, that's fun?
I don't know. I hadn't even put that much thought into it. I just thought that, like, oh, this must be she took them into the corridor where she has like all of her shit packed away. But
was she leading the way? Was she leading the way,
Brian?
Huh?
Yeah, I think she gives it away. I think she's like not selling it. She's like she's helping out. Like earlier, she gave away shovels and hose, and then she's like a Robin Hood. She like steals from the rich and gives to the poor.
There is who is it who mentions Robin Hood at some point in this episode?
I think Boimler did actually.
Boimler,
right.
Was it?
I think she does.
And so, maybe does she steal from the bad guys? Is all of this merch, all of this smuggled goods taken from dishonorable bad people who deserve to be screwed over in one way or another? And this is how she screws them over. That's certainly possible. This could be a much more Robin Hood-y and less mercantile Ferengi type enterprise.
It would make Riker's involvement a little better, actually.
It would help with that too. Yes. Yeah, actually, I really like that. Now that you pointed that out, the Robin Hood angle, I think, is a much better way to approach it, but for multiple purposes, including how it ties in with the theme at the end of the episode. Anyway, I did think she makes so much more sense. That's why she's on this ship, because her mom will run cover for her thieving ways.
Well, I loved the action in this fight. I loved seeing Boimler use the is it a rapier or a foil? It's a foil, right?
It looks like a foil, but I'm not sure.
When she told him, Sulu was a sword guy. You could be a sword guy too, way back in the first episode. Mm-hmm. And Ransom doing his Kirk shoulder rolls and double fist punches. They give Shax a lot of action that kind of like caught my eyes. Like, oh yeah, they sure are spending a lot of time on Shax in this episode, which I didn't realize what they were building to at the time. But the fight was really cool. They do action very well on the show, and we get the emotional beat with Boimler and Mariner, where he confesses to her, like, look, I wasn't worried about you like taking that promotion for me. I apply for those all the time and I never get them. I just didn't want you to leave because you're my best friend. And so I liked seeing this is kind of the culmination of their season 1 arc, where they kind of started off antagonistic to one another, and then by this point they have developed a good working relationship and a good friendship. And that is a sad thing when like if you have like a friend who moves away or something. So I can relate to Boimler here.
Yeah. Well, that raises more questions at the end, but yes.
But we'll get to that, I guess.
Mariner who?
Yes. Captain Freeman gets injured by this pack lead who like hits her with his weapon, but he yells like "pack lead" is like his battle cry when he.
I didn't even catch that.
Funny.
Oh my god!
But of course, Mariner comes and rescues her mom. And, it's like we saw in the last episode, like Mariner would be like protective of her mom and feels like responsible for her. And And Shax comes and helps them get to sick bay.
It appears to be a universal rule that only you are allowed to make fun of your mother. So,
Your parents.
So your parents in general, yes.
And this is where Rutherford catches up to him. And I guess he's in like a musical mode now because he's singing to them that like, I have the virus, but someone has to take it to the ship.
I didn't even catch that. You're right. Okay. And that's why he was talking funny. Sorry. Musical's not my thing. I didn't click.
So they need a candidate who is small enough to go undetected, who could survive in space without a ship, and travel with the program stored in their hard drive. So, of course, the obvious person to do it would be Peanut Hamper. And Peanut Hamper gets nominated and then rejects it. She's just like, I'll pass. Which I kind of like, because like the whole point of that episode of Next Generation that introduced the exocomps quality of life was about like these things like being like sentient and like not like choosing if they wanted to like give their lives or not, or like sacrificing themselves, or like not dying just because they're told to. So I kind of didn't want them to be like, oh, you should go like kill yourself to save us, and then it'd be like, okay. So I did kind of like the subversion here. Yeah,
well, though I think, I mean, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, the droid turns out to be a dick. That's funny, I guess. And then the second time I watched it, is she really? Because
she is, because of what she says next. When she says,
hold on. Put a human in this role. You've just graduated from Starfleet Academy, and the entire crew is like, all right, we want you to single-handedly invade the enemy ship and load this program by yourself. And you could totally see a newly graduated cadet who just fails their bravery check and says, fuck it, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm sorry. Court-martial me, whatever. I'm not doing it.
But then when she goes on to kind of like make fun of them, when she says like, I don't even care about Starfleet, I only joined to piss off my dad, and then she says, I'm just gonna beam out of this situation, like, it must suck to be organic. Have fun with your guts being blown up, or whatever.
That's the part where, it's like.
Well, they just told her, yeah, we're going to order you to go potentially kill yourself. And she's like, yeah, screw you guys. And yeah, you're all going to, I don't care if you die. You just told me I had to go kill myself because you outranked me. So I can kind of see her point of view as far as, and they leave her out there, right? They don't rescue her at the end of this. Whereas if it had been a human who had panicked and said, fuck all of you, and ran off and jumped in an escape pod, would you have felt okay with them just leaving that human floating in space and flying off?
It depends on how big of an asshole they were.
I think, and even if we accept that that's not good Starfleet behavior, I think it's still a very human behavior. So, and maybe we shouldn't be leaving people to die in the cold vacuum of space over being too human. So
I'll change the subject real quick just to say that the cherry on top is that Tendi says that was a stupid name anyway. Peanut Hammer was a stupid name anyways. Like, it was like,
which does raise the question: how many of those times that Tendi is hyper happy about stuff is actually her internally saying that's dumb, but I'm just going to go pretend to be happy because I think that's what I should do.
Because she has like the people pleaser personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll just like act like she likes everything.
She confesses that to what was O'Connell, the guy who ascended. Like, remember, she's just like, I was just saying stuff to make you like me too, or something like that. It was like, it was that was a cool episode for her. But yeah, she totally, like, in this case, I approved though. I liked it that she was like, to spite the exocomp.
And Chris, who is watching live in the comments, says, I thought the exocomp was following the ways seen in the quality of life. The droid is following ways of not risking own life. Yeah, the point of the story is that, like, these exocomps should have like their own agency and their own like control of they're going to live or die. But with Peanut Hamper removing herself from the situation, that leaves Rutherford to step up. He's finally toggled back onto normal mode, which was important to do here to show that it was like his actual choice. But he's gonna put the virus into his implant and go over to that ship himself. And Tendi has like a big emotional moment here where she's like no, I don't want you to do this. I don't want to lose my friend. And
she's
to, like,
perfectly okay with Peanut doing it, but if it's somebody she's actually got an emotional caring for, oh no, you can't do this.
Well, that's kind of a human reaction. If it's like, do you want someone you barely know to go die and save everyone that you're around? Or do you want like your best friend to go do it?
Yes, I'm just pointing out that I think the show casts Peanut in a more unfavorable light than she deserves to be cast in. So,
I love that you're standing for Peanut Amper.
there's a case for fairness to the exocomp that I had not considered.
PJ!
This is kind of the moment where I kind of got like really invested emotionally with like the heroic self-sacrifice type stuff, and when Shax is like when Rutherford is like, I got this, and then Shax is like, I got you, baby bear, and he runs him down the hallway, and you see like Tendi is so sad and heartbroken to lose her friend, but they do the cool shuttle run in the Sequoia. So this shuttle that they've been, I assume they tinker on this in their buffer time.
They're trying to build their own Knight Rider or something. Get one done.
Why is Tendi a medical officer? Why is Tendi working on the shuttlecraft with the rest of the gang all the time?
Bioneural gel packs.
Yeah,
that's my story. That's my story.
I think I actually like either you might have told me that, or I thought of that on my own, just pondering about it one day. But so Shax and Rutherford ram their shuttle into the Pac-led ship and hook up the computer to Rutherford's implant, and then Shax is just having so much fun while Rutherford's uploading the computer. He is just having like the time of his life, fighting all these Pac-leds, getting to blow up the hole with the shuttle's phasers, getting to pilot it across this battlefield in space, getting to punch these Pac-leds. So this reminds me of the Red Letter Media, the Plinkett review of Star Trek Nemesis that came out years and years ago. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, go check it out. But one of the things that the criticisms of Star Trek Nemesis was how it was kind of silly for Picard to go self-sacrifice himself at the end of Star Trek Nemesis, when it's like he should have just turned to Worf and be like, Worf, go over to the ship, kill everything, and blow it up. I know that you won't come back from it, but you actually really want to do this. I feel like this is like Shax getting to do what Worf would have liked to have done in Star Trek Nemesis.
Worf, that thing with Dax didn't work out, right? Yeah. Okay, I've got a job for you.
Picard would never do that, but Worf would take the initiative and go.
Yeah. Of course, Picard had to take matters into his own hands. I reject that criticism, but it is fun to think about how much Worf would enjoy the big heroic self-sacrifice so that you could sing songs of his glory years later. Badgie tries to ruin it though with he pauses the virus upload because he still hates his father Rutherford, and so this is when Shax has to just with his brute force, the way that he wants to solve every problem, rip the implant out of Rutherford's face. It was like
this
so
is brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal, shockingly gory to an extent.
Yeah,
he learned that fighting Borg on the holodecks.
Where he's been watching like Star Trek Picard and all like the
I knew you were gonna go there. I knew you were gonna
injuries go there. That PJ talks about.
He would need the Guardian of Forever or something to watch Star Trek Picard at this point.
That's true.
Or he had like the Bajoran orb of time.
Oh yeah, that's more likely.
But
now I want to know if there's Shaq has the Bajoran orb of kick-ass.
He pushes the shuttle out and goes back to fighting the Pac-Leds.
I love to just push the shuttle out. I don't know if I really buy that, but it was just kind of, I solved the problem by pushing.
The
Badgie has like a orgasmic expression when he does the self-destruct.
I don't know if this is too low of a humor, but I actually thought it was like he was taking a dump and the virus was the dump or something. He had like relief at the end. So.
I thought it was like he was like blowing his load.
Which bodily function was it? We need you guys to post your comments and let us know.
Yeah.
Which is it? Which bodily function was it?
Yeah, like For people watching a video of this, we have a image of Shax pulled up right as he explodes, and he's just like so happy and so gleefully kicking the shit out of these Pakleds as he blows up, as the entire ship blows up. As the shuttle floats to safety, and the Pakled ship is destroyed. And then back on the Cerritos, Mariner and Boimler coming up to the bridge, and they're trying to get like the power online. You know, the Pakleds are taken care of. We can get out of here. Oh, look, there's the shuttle. Okay, cool. We can get Rutherford back on board. And it was fun for me to see Mariner in the captain's chair. I liked that. And I liked that exchange between her and her mom. We'd never like really seen them as like a really functional mother-daughter duo or really functional commanding officer.
Friends, kind of, right? Like just being friendly to one another.
Well, it was more. They weren't really as friends. They weren't really as equals. It was more of like parent and child, or like commander, officer, and subordinate. Because she says to her, get the power back online and don't get too comfortable in that chair. And Mariner's just like enjoying it. She's like, yes, sir. Like she's like they're working together functionally, and then. Oh no, 3 more ships are coming in. And the stakes really were escalated in a very like organic way to increase the tension.
I was thought we were headed to a season finale cliffhanger. I thought it was just going to be that's it. They're surrounded, and the Pakled says prepare to fire, and then bump, and then credits roll, and tune in next year for what happens. I was
like I couldn't think of like what the hell are they going to do here? How do they get out of this?
Yeah,
like they had to kill one of their semi main characters.
Yeah,
take down one of these. So the notification, another incoming ship, and then this is when I had like my other outburst that I had watching this episode. I mentioned like the ones I had before, but here when we get the shot of the ship, like it's only like a 1 or 2 second shot of the Luna class Titan that's been established in a bunch of non-canon stuff. We've seen it in books and comics and video games. There's an Eagle Moss of it, just like really close to me on my shelf over here. I have a little Eagle Moss model. And even though it's only like a 1 or 2 second shot, like somehow when I watched this, like time froze in my brain. And I had like 5 minutes to like analyze this shot.
This was like the moment where Picard freezes time on Baku on the Baku planet.
Right. Like in Star Trek Insurrection when he's watching like that hummingbird. It froze. Like I saw like the registry number. I saw like the word the lettering say USS Titan. I saw that it was the actual Luna class design, and I just shrieked, like I screamed. I was like, ah!
So awesome.
Right after that, it cuts to Boimler, and he's like, "It's the Titan!" And then, like when he said the word like Titan out loud, like pointing at it, I shrieked again. I went like, "Ah!" I woke up my girlfriend. But yeah, it was.
Father, go back a couple shots though. The shot before one more. This shot of Boimler reminds me of First Contact when he's like, "It's the Enterprise." Remember on the Defiant, like kind of the same, like like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, this is the same type of like heroic rescue, and we get to see Riker and Troy and see the Titan kick ass. And it was
look at that. That's awesome.
They're wearing like the cool black and gray uniforms.
Yeah, so I guess those uniforms have not been retired. They are just held for certain ships. But it does seem like we've seen admirals wearing what look like the new version. So it's kind of I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it was never entirely clear with Next Gen versus DS9 either.
Yeah, so. we in Deep Space Nine we see both like the TNG style and the Voyager style at the same time. And then in Discovery, we see a lot of like the blues and the Enterprise Constitution gold, blue, and reds at the same time. So,
taking a page from the novels, they sort of say the Constitution class has their own uniforms, right. but then, these uniforms.
Then the short treks, we see other ships have those too.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's true. I hadn't thought about that till just now. You're right.
So uniforms are no longer uniform, and that's okay. We just have to accept that.
Yeah.
I love that. Uniforms are no longer uniform.
Like we used to think when we just had like the cage to go off of, we used to think that they used lasers right up until like they invented the phaser, and then Enterprise came along. And we learned there's a thing called the phase pistol. Like, it's okay. You have to like adjust. You have to adjust the timeline.
Yeah.
as things progress. That's part of it. If you haven't figured that out yet, I'm sorry, but you'll get there eventually. I believe in you. But it was cool to confirm that like Mariner and Riker knew each other. I suggested that, Brian, do you remember when you were like, how does Mariner know about Jellicoe being a bad substitute captain? I said, like, maybe she's friends with Riker and he told her about it.
Yeah. What do you think of the renditions? I thought Troy looked like Troy, but I wasn't entirely convinced. Like, if they hadn't, said it was Riker and clearly had Jonathan Frakes doing the voice, I don't know if I would have clocked on that that's supposed to be Riker when I saw it.
He is in a lot better shape here than Nemesis Riker was.
Well, Eddie, even go back to season 2 Riker. I just, that face doesn't say Riker to me. So
yeah,
I didn't feel like it was Riker how I thought he would be, but I did feel it was Riker. Like, yeah, I expected. Go on. Sorry,
you muted your.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I still recognized them as Riker and Troy, and what I was more impressed by was just like the design of the ship. For whatever reason, I think they probably did tweak it a little bit, but it still looked so kick-ass. Yeah. And I like that like they didn't just like murder these Pakleds; they just kind of fight them off. And they warp out of there.
Did that swoop across the top? Wasn't that the same swoop they did in Insurrection when Riker was in charge of the ship, the Enterprise E? When they kind of fly low over the top of the bad guy ship, pounding it from above as they go.
That's right.
That was did that. Yeah, they did that same thing in Insurrection when Riker was in charge. So I did like that. I don't know if that was if I'm stepping on your Easter eggs, but I enjoyed that.
Well, I didn't record that for the Gorn eggs, but I definitely thought that when I was watching it. And we have the epilogue here of everyone's safe. They saved the day. They go to Douglas Station to repair the ship, and Captain Freeman says she wants it to look how it's always looked. And this made me so sad. The Rutherford Tendi stuff, where Rutherford has like lost his memory when he wakes up after his implant being removed. And
to back up a moment, the thing I cheered at was the fact that Freeman thinks that the movie era greebling up of the outer hulls of starships is ugly, because I do too. I like my ships clean and smooth and fairly monochrome on the outside, not all sovereigned up. And
yeah,
I
would take an Akira class and a Luna class over any ship that showed up in Next Generation any day.
Yeah. Wow.
Again, it's not the overall shape, it's the texturing of the hull that I don't like. The shapes are fine.
I kind of like it. I kind of I like the First Contact Day aesthetic. I'll take
I'm with Freeman.
I'm a fan of like the John Eves design sensibilities.
I like them all. I like those designs.
Well, I was so sad for like Rutherford like losing his memories, because I think that's like kind of like a big fear of mine. Is I kind of like cling to my memories and hold on to them and kind of like hoard them. So a lot of my friends have commented on like I have like a pretty good memory, and to me like the idea of like getting like Alzheimer's or some type of like memory loss or something, it's just like, to me it's like the most frightening thing ever. And so it's like so sad about Rutherford, but they didn't seem to mind. There's like, we could just become friends all over again.
And again, is that Tendi's being honest, or is that Tendi just saying what she thinks everyone expects her to say? So, or what she thinks he needs to hear.
Before.
She might be a fatal optimist. Yeah. She may be a fatal optimist. It's possible.
And I don't know if this memory thing is really going to stick. I kind of feel like that the next season he gets his memories back fairly quickly.
I think there's more to it. I think there's more to why Mike McMahan has hinted at there might be more to why Rutherford needed that implant, like why he had it. There might have been some necessity for it. So I think we'll see a different implant. I think we'll have some type of like upgrade, like a new implant next season.
Tendi will build him one.
We have the funeral for Shax, the very like Rathacon style flag over the torpedo.
I guess they recovered his body. I mean, it kind of looked like that was a no body recovery.
Yeah, I think that was just like a ceremonial casket.
A ceremonial photon warhead.
Well, I don't think they actually launched it because like they're in space dock, so I don't think they were shooting any torpedoes. I think they were just they just had like the memorial service here with like the traditional casket torpedo.
I think they'll probably beam it out, if anything, right? Like, if
there's nothing to beam. There's like no body.
True.
Yeah.
But I like the captain keeping one of Shax's Bajoran earrings and his flag up on her shelf. You would think like, well, that would go to his family, wouldn't it? And then I thought like, oh wait, a Bajoran of his age, like just this amount of time after the occupation, like he might not have any living relatives.
Yeah.
Like they might have all like died fighting the Cardassians or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, like there's a lot of like, people who came out of the Holocaust with like, I'm the only one in my family left. So it's sad to think about.
That now you just made that even darker. I mean, it was sad, but now it's sad and dark.
Shax did what he wanted to do, and we should be happy for him. And,
I want to learn more about all of Freeman's like little trinkets and things,
little knickknacks.
Knickknacks, yeah.
I will
like the
drink a cold one for Shax.
for Shax.
A cold beer.
I should have
fallen hero.
We'll toast to Shax on Starfleet Boy After Dark as well.
Cool. What do y'all think of this last scene with Mariner and Freeman, where they kind of agree to join forces, where the captain says that she's kind of frustrated with how Starfleet operates sometimes and kind of wants to have someone who can break the rules?
Well, I wanted your guys' opinion. Do you guys believe Starfleet is bad at maintaining things, at maintenance? That they come up with good ideas and they make new discoveries and observations, but they don't follow up. Does that feel right to you, or does that feel like something they just stuck into this episode to get the scene to go the way they wanted it to go?
I think it could feel right because I do think that like systems like this can have points where they're working extremely efficiently and then other times when they're not. And so they may be like this is post-Dominion war and, resources may still be recovered. There may be a myriad reasons why right now at this point in Star Trek, Starfleet doesn't work too well with maintenance. So I bought it from that perspective.
It's certainly possible that I'm sure during the war, lots of balls were dropped. That ball is not important. That spinning plate is not important. Right. Have they picked them all up yet?
Who cares about Beta 3?
Right.
Beta Z has been invaded by the Jem'Hadar.
Dominion, yes.
And it's like, and it even what's his name, the Bad Admiral from Insurrection, kind of is like mentions at one point that Starfleet stretched, and you.
I think all they got stretched. His face got stretched. Santa Claus looking
Admiral. It's true. So yeah, I could buy it. I could buy it at this point, and then it kind of made me wonder about like, Picard's own disillusionment with Starfleet later on, and if this is kind of like setting up some things that we might get.
So it's going to get worse as opposed to better.
That's a frustration for me. I'm after 2 seasons of Discovery doing it, and then a season of Picard doing it. I want to see like a fucking functional Starfleet that's good, that can actually.
Lower Decks is not the place to look for that, Father.
And also, Father, just like on another level though, like that's kind of the frustration right now with our system, right? Like we all kind of want our system to work.
That's why I want my fictional society to be better. I want to escape. I don't want it something I can relate to. I want it something I can aspire to.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna get there. Give
me Superman, not Peter Parker at this point. I need to see the utopian vision. I need that in my life. If I can't have it in my real life, I want it in my make believe.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm on that too.
A thought I did have after pondering the question myself was that if you grow up in a perfect social system and your parents grew up in a perfectly tuned social system, it might actually be hard for you to relate to people who did not, people in societies that don't have a perfectly tuned social system. And the idea that just because you fixed it and showed them the way, that should be it, right? You saw the problem. But if you're, relapses are something that happen to people, especially when they haven't worked all the kinks out of their mind. And I suspect the same thing is very true of societies, which occasionally want to go back to doing things the way they used to do several decades ago. And so I thought, that could be a bit of a cultural blind spot for Starfleet and the Federation, is the idea that, once you fix something, why would they break it again why would they make the same mistake again? Might be something they just can't really wrap their heads around. It did occur to me that philosophically, despite this show clearly being in love with Next Gen above and beyond everything else, the message at the end of the season is we need to be more Deep Space Nine. Next Gen was the show that went to the Planet of the Week, fixed the problem, and then moved on. DS9 was the show that stayed and grew and checked back in with its things.
Well put.
And developed and made sure and nursed things along and made sure it held the hands of the people who needed help. So they basically end the show saying we need to be more Deep Space Nine, which I thought was an interesting idea given how in love with Next Gen the show is.
For sure. Well, it's hard to deny that Deep Space Nine is not the best Star Trek show, and everyone would strive for its greatness. But what I mentioned before about them, I think maybe kind of changing the MO of the show, is I think that they might be setting up in season 2. We will see more returns to maybe previously established things like Beta 3, maybe original to us. But Starfleet has had some passive, but basically this might be kind of the cleanup crew, or not even the cleanup crew, but the checkup crew. Okay, the Enterprise came here several years ago, and we're here now just to see how things are going. Right? Looks like you need help again, and we might be seeing more of those types of stories, really leaning into the idea of the second contact. It's going to be the second. They're going to do sequels basically to all these standalone episodes.
Yes, and it gives them a good excuse for that. I will say they said, okay, I'll be the captain and do everything officially, and you'll sneak around and solve all the problems that we that would break the rules to solve them, and you can do that on the sly. And I was watching, and I said, that's Section 31. You guys just created Section 31 again.
That's somehow I looked at it. I looked at it as Captain, they're splitting Captain Kirk into two different people. They're gonna have the ship commander.
Yeah,
and who has all the responsibility and accountability, but that other half of Captain Kirk that's the rogue renegade, but also a heroic maverick, who's gonna do what's best for the greater good.
I suspect most of those Section 31 agents probably see themselves as the rogue mavericks, who save the Federation. And Kirk always almost always reported what infractions he and rules he bent and broke and took the consequences for them. Is Mariner going to be doing that, or is they going to leave that off the log entry? My impression was that Section 31, that's not going to end up in the logs.
I still think it's more like King Richard the Lionheart and Robin of Locksley. It's more like that kind of a relationship. She has to be on the up and up at all times. But Mariner can give away crayons,
but Section 31 agents think they're Robin Hood in a sense. We might decide we agree with Mariner's choices and we don't agree with most Section 31 choices, but they are the rules are there for a reason to stop people from turning into Section 31. And we're basically explicitly saying we're going to have the option of ignoring the rules. And I thought, ethically, that's interesting.
Worked for Ben
Yeah.
Sisko.
Yeah,
I do.
did it?
I do think
He was
yeah,
drinking and
yeah.
didn't seem happy about that. He did not
No.
seem. It worked. I don't know if you would call it worked for him. It got the job done, but I don't think he enjoyed it or was happy about
Okay,
it.
it worked for
I
the
just
Alpha
think-
Quadrant.
Yes.
I just think Mariner's more like a bender of the rules. I mean, so far from what we've seen, all she really does is give away like things, right? Like shovels.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not gonna like
stuff
assassinate
like that.
Romulan senators.
Well, no,
I don't
yeah.
think.
right.
Yeah,
She's not
we-
like
We trust
Right.
Mariner's ethical outlook more than Sloane's, for example,
Right,
for
exactly.
sure. And but there's how do you, there's certainly some ethic questions about just saying, well, you have good ethics, so you don't have to follow the rules. I don't know if that's a good precedent to set. Now, I do think it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to what they do with that in the next season. I like the idea that they're going to explore that, but I'd be lying to myself if I didn't think that's Section 31. You just described Section 31.
So the heart of Section 31 is little innocent. It all starts from those little innocent giving away crayons. Like no more giving. Like,
not the heart, but the seed. The
seed, rather. Yeah, the seed. Yes, that's true.
Well, I like when they're on the bar, the kind of the tail end of the episode when Rutherford sees like Mariner walking over their table, and he's like trying to introduce Tendi to it. He's like, "Oh, that's Mariner. I work with her." He doesn't remember like Tendi already knows Mariner. And then we see like Riker and Freeman, and they talk about how like they've known each other for a long time, and it seems to me, I get the impression that Riker used to be the Mariner to Freeman's Boimler. So I don't know, maybe when they were like they served together on the Potemkin or something.
That's great. I like that.
I
also,
would love to see that explored in a time travel episode.
Yeah, or they could do like a short trek on it or something. And then I liked Ransom talking to Troy, trying to get tips for, I guess, picking up Betazoid women. And Troy says, I think what a lot of us have probably suspected, that like, oh, Commander Ransom, you're actually like a sea of insecurities, just like disguised with confidence.
And his reply to that, I can make that work for me. That I think was my favorite line in the episode, just because it's exactly an example of that. Oh, where you think you're going to get this joke, but you're actually getting this joke, this much more Star Trek joke. He suddenly is this enlightened Roddenberry-esque human being who can accept his faults and failures and make them work for him to get some tail. So I love that, the weird, oh, he's enlightened, but he's not enlightened, but he is enlightened. Yeah, I love that. That was just a beautiful piece of Star Trek human and humor commentary.
And then we end things with Rutherford and Tendi. They're clearly going to be friends again, best friends, maybe romantically involved at some point. I kind of thought Tendi would have expressed that in this episode. I was kind of surprised that didn't happen, but who knows?
If he just lost his memory, that's not when you start saying, "Hey, we should date."
No, it would have been when he was going to go like self-sacrifice.
Oh, I see. Okay,
like she should have like kissed him or something. I would have thought, but maybe she just wants to be friends. I don't know.
I'm kind of fine with a slow burn on things. I think.
Sure. Yeah, I typically am too. But this was also a very rewarding scene for me between Mariner and Boimler, where Boimler says, I got to admit it, I've learned a lot from you. You really have been my mentor. And Mariner's kind of like, oh, shut up, you nerd. Like, we can hang out without me being your mentor. And she kind of wants to be friends with him as equals. And it's like, oh, like Mariner like respects Boimler as an equal now. And then Riker comes over and says his name wrong, calls him Boomler. He goes back to being like such a nerd and all standing up straight and stuff. But Riker's like, oh yeah, you have a spotless record and stuff. And
which of us wouldn't be a bumbling nerd in front of Commander Riker? So save the Federation.
Yeah. Well, apparently not Mariner, because they're going to go off and have some drinks together.
Well,
I guess
they're friends and cohorts.
Yeah, because she's like old friends with her mom. So I think like Mariner is like Riker is like, oh yeah, I know Beckett. She's my old friend Carol. That's Carol's kid. I've known her since she was a baby.
Yeah, we've been working on that smuggling ring ever since she was about 14 years old. So.
I like that when Riker said, "Why don't you buy me a drink?" Because people always talk about like buy drinks and stuff. Like a few episodes ago when Ransom was like, "Oh, can I buy you a drink?" to that other captain. But here, like Mariner is like, like we don't have money. We don't use money anymore.
Yeah.
I think this is like a figure of speech, like buying a drink.
Right.
But
I like that.
The pad that Riker hands Boimler, it I guess has like his transfer orders, because then Boimler gets like super excited, and we cut to Mariner blowing up his voicemail as he's like suiting up. We actually have like that black half pip. Finally, they show us like a proper ensign promotion to a lieutenant junior grade. It's not like 2 golds; it's a gold and black.
Riker does things right on his ship.
Yeah, I like it. But yeah, so Riker is on the Titan, and that is going to be how season 2 begins with Boimler and Riker and Troy all on this other ship together.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Which does parallel what they were planning for the next generation movie, with Riker and Troy on a different ship than the rest of the heroes. And how was that going to work from a storytelling perspective? And now they have that same question they have to grapple with here.
And Boimler is all confident. He's like the cool kid now. He's like, oh, yeah, we're going to Telgana 4. I was there in the 2nd episode of the show. Let me tell you all about it. There's this Endorian bar that you'll like. Oh, I did notice that in their DS9 black and grays, they still have like the colored bottom of the boots. Like the bottom of Boimler's boot is still red, like the lower deck uniforms. But yeah, so Mariner is all pissed off and is like,
he's got the little Boimler effect plaque. I didn't even notice that before.
Episode 3.
Oh, nice. He's accepted it and regards it as a good and honorable thing. Cool.
And I guess like pads are like the equivalent of a smartphone, because they took a selfie with one earlier, and here this one dude is like, oh, your pad is blowing up. It's like,
why wouldn't they be?
Right.
It's like that hasn't really been clarified in like dialogue before.
Well, the pad, I don't know if Steve Jobs ever said it, but the pad is clearly like the inspiration for the iPad.
That's not a pad on the table, by the way. That's Picard's little desktop gadget.
Oh yeah, it's just,
they say pad because I imagine you could take that off though, because see, it's long. It's like a longer one.
Yeah. It's a dock.
It's more like it's a hybrid,
tablet.
so you could dock your pad now.
I like that. I'd love to see that in the show now. I want that in the show.
Nice.
Yeah, but Mike McMahan has confirmed that the Boimler's not just going to like bounce back in the opening of season 2. He's going to be on the Titan for a while. So, and then it ends with like earlier in the episode, Mariner is like, "Oh, Lieutenant Commander Billups doesn't even know me. He called me Jen the other day. Like, do you know Jen?" And then here, when she's like yelling into Boimler's voicemail, we hear another voice say, "Shut up, psychopath," or something like that. And Mariner's like, "Shut up, Jen." I don't know why that cracked me up. But what do y'all think of like seeing like Riker like in command? Like I love seeing like Jonathan Frakes getting like have fun being Captain Riker. Like he like, oh yeah, he's gonna like make references to jazz music, because like he's like this big jazz nerd.
He definitely seemed a little more chill. I guess, it felt really odd to me and several other people I've talked to that Boimler just blows off Mariner at the end, and he doesn't even stress out about it. Boimler does not strike me as the sort of person who can leave a ringing phone unanswered, and even if he does, he's going to be agitated and stressed that he is not answering the phone. And whereas he's totally chill, like, about it. So what's going on with that? And did I miss something?
I mean, I think he's just like his dream came true. He got like this big promotion that he wanted, and he's just kind of all about that. Like he's just obsessed with that right now. And
I guess, but we've seen his, happy moments where he's really excited, and he crashes right back down as soon as something unplanned happens, even the slightest thing. So it seemed really weird that he was just like ghosting Mariner. And I was like, especially given everything they said in earlier scenes about "you're my best friend and I want to stay with you," or I want you guys, I want to be on the same ship as you, that he's not even giving her the time of day.
Do you think that's what they're gonna have in season 2? Maybe like Boimler will start having like some guilt and some regret, and realize that he was happier back on the Cerritos with his friends. Stress Free K has a comment in the live chat saying Boimler will learn the grass is not always greener and eventually return a little less kiss-assy.
Well, yeah, but Boimler is obsessed with guilt. He's a guilt machine. Why is the guilt not triggering? That's what I don't understand. It should already be there.
I don't know. I guess like he generally believes like it's not that big of a deal. She'll get over it. Like he's getting like what he always wanted. Like I think he has like the blinders on because he's like, oh, I finally got like this promotion. I finally got onto like a significant ship. I got my own quarters now. I'm not sleeping on a bunk bed with a bunch of other people.
And for what it's worth, the actor who played him actually said that he thought that was mean as well, and implied that he thought it was out of character. He definitely described it as you wrote me all mean or something to that effect.
Yeah, he did say that. You're right.
And so even he thought it was the implication is he thought it was odd too. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, I think that's what they're going to explore in the next season. I think that there's feelings. They kind of just have to like end that as like this little tag here of like, oh yeah, Boimler, you're being a little bit of a dick now, so that you can feel bad about it later.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course we have a Peanut Hamper floating around asking for help. I guess that was mean too.
It wasn't very Starfleet. It wasn't very Starfleet.
So I do have like a bunch of Gorn eggs. This has been like a really long show so far, but there's just so much to unpack in this episode, and I knew it was going to be a little long. Do either of y'all have like any final thoughts on the episode before I run through these Gorn eggs and close us out?
I have a Gorn egg I'm suspicious you missed, but
okay.
But beyond that, do you want me to throw that out now?
Wait till I get to the end, because I practiced going through these fast.
Okay.
If I miss anything that y'all spotted, let me know. How's that sound?
All right.
Sounds good. The only closing thought I have is that it's been great fun doing this season with you guys. So, part of the season I wasn't here from the beginning, but like I was in the audience since the beginning, and so thanks for having me on for this journey, and also just rewatching and talking about it, like reliving it now. Like it reinforces how well crafted this whole season has been, and that the payoff was just so satisfying because of all the setup, even little things like that you don't even notice that are just on the subconscious level, like Boimler hoarding contraband and things like that. So I just really enjoyed this show.
Mariner hoarding contraband.
That's what I meant. Mariner, yeah. So I like it. I like it a lot. I'm very impressed with this show, and I think it's very promising what's coming. I just wish that the live action shows will elevate also to this level.
I would like to see kind of in the other Star franchise, how everyone loves the show The Mandalorian, and like Jon Favreau and what's that other guy who did like the cartoons? Filoni, Dave Filoni.
Oh, Filoni, yeah. And yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like everyone is like obsessed with like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni right now. And they're kind of going to be more involved, I think, with like the movies and like the other stuff going forward. I would like to see something like similar happen with these Star Trek shows. I think like even the people who have like a hard time with like an animated comedy, I think will still understand that like Lower Decks under Mike McMahon's leadership really understands like what fans want to see in Star Trek in a way that I think some of the other shows, as good as they are, just sometimes like they don't get, like putting like the disco shuttle all over Picard. Something as simple as that like I think like if Mike McMahon was around, he'd be like no, come on, it takes no time to like whip up this new shuttle. Fans will love it. People who are just kind of the less dedicated, less nerdy audience won't mind it. Like, why not do it? Like, like he understands those little things that I think the other shows could definitely learn a lot from Lower Decks.
And even beyond just pleasing fans, like they get Star Trek. I feel like they, regardless of whether they're trying to please fans, which they do tons of in this show, you could tell there's a love for the material. And like Mike, exactly what you had said. Like if he were in charge of that, in charge of Picard, we wouldn't get a Discovery or a shuttle. Like it wouldn't happen. Discovery would look different. Like it'd be a different
Discovery
setting.
Would look very TOS, I'm sure, if these guys had been in charge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it would have been a whole different aesthetic. They get both. They get both the fact that you want like great stories, but you also want like a continuity of of the world as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, here are all of our Gorn eggs, the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections that I caught in the episode. If I miss any, be sure to comment or email or tweet or whatever to let me know, and I'll give you credit for catching something I didn't. But starting off, Beta 3, the Return of the Archons planet. I do like one little detail that they added. They used like this exact same street corner that we saw in Return of the Archons.
Oh,
They
nice.
added this alien planet in the sky to make it look a little less like exactly like Earth. So that was a nice detail. Yeah, they're wearing like the same type of like 1800s clothing. And Landru, the computer, looks the same as it did for the most part in the original series. We also see Kirk and Spock on Ransom's pad. Those
And
are
a new image.
Yeah, those are the TAS designs for Kirk and Spock from the animated series. When Landru starts getting sassy with the captain, she's like, don't make me paradox you, which Captain Kirk loved to use logical paradoxes or some other type of argument to defeat computers. He did it with Landru, did it with Nomad and the Changeling. He did it with the Mud androids and iMud. He kind of looks like he has the same face that Badgie had during the self-destruct in this image. If you're watching this, but. On the bridge, of course, on the ship in the corridor, Ransom points out it's always weird going to those planets from the TOS era, which stands for the original series in real life. But he mentions those old scientists, and he mentions Scotty and Spock, who are probably two famous surviving members, people still alive of the 1701 in this era. In the Turbolift, Captain Ransom mentions Gamester of Triskelion. That was a TOS episode. We get the USS Solvang and also the USS Sacramento, two new California class ships in this episode. Solvang being, I'd never heard of it before, but Solvang, California is like this little Danish village. It's like, if you want to go to Denmark, but don't want to go to actual Denmark, you can go to Solvang, California. And it's like this little Danish town. And then, of course, Sacramento, California. Rutherford.
Like the shout you picked for Sacramento was like...
Oh, do you
it
like
could
that?
be anywhere. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know much about what Sacramento looks like or what's iconic about it. So that was the best I could do.
I loved it.
Rutherford makes comments about Captain Freeman Day is going to be awkward now that they know that Mariner is Captain Freeman's daughter. So I guess that was a reference to Captain Picard Day as established in Star Trek The Next Generation. Also, Rutherford has all the different modes on his implant that he goes through. I'm just going to cycle through them. I've documented all of them. We have extremely optimistic mode, passive-aggressive mode, Klingon mode, holiday spirit mode, British mode, sassy mode, drunk mode, weird mode, and sleep mode. I've done all three of those in a single night before. Drunk, weird, and sleepy. Then there's bro mode, hot take mode, and then Tex-Trek host mode. I mean, sexy mode. That's like the same thing.
Delightful.
And then the character Peanut Hamper was an exocomp. They were introduced in the Next Generation episode, The Quality of Life. When she arrives on the shuttlecraft, it's like the exact same shot as when Tendi arrived. And they have the exact same reaction to seeing the Cerritos shuttle bay. It's like, oh, it's beautiful. And it's all kind of like shot by shot the same thing. Even like their tour, when Tendi is showing her around, some of the same dialogue. Oh, that's a computer maintenance hatch, and that's a transporter buffer. It's the same as when Tendi was getting her tour in the first episode. Mariner mentions that maybe her and her mom can work together, like Wesley Crusher and Beverly Crusher did, two characters from The Next Generation. Steve Levy not only was a person who thought that Wolf 359 was an inside job, but he also said that changelings aren't real and the Dominion War didn't happen. So he's like a Holocaust denier type, he's a Dominion War denier. We see Ransom's first officer office. I think the only other time we see a first officer's office is in Star Trek Voyager with Chakotay. And then it looks a lot like the Ready Room, except it has a bunch of weightlifting gear. And if you're watching a video of this, whatever this Starfleet issued object is right here, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to comment on what I think it kind of looks like. But
I think it's just a water bottle.
Okay, is that all it is? Is that a Starfleet fleshlight?
We're gonna expand on that in Starfleet Voyager. By the way, my continuum track, or question track is here.
Well, a fleshlight would be more entertaining. I think looking at all the exercise stuff, I think it's a water bottle that he drinks from after working out hard. But
okay, yeah, fair enough. That makes more sense. Oh wow, they're really leaning into the idea that like this guy is like a really horny. But whatever. Pakleds were introduced in the Next Generation Season 2 episode, The Samaritan Snare, where they kidnap Geordi. We see their little wimpy ship that was a model frequently reused in TNG and DS9. They have stolen technology from Romulans, Klingons, Ferengi, and Bajoran. And Ransom says that the Pakled ship is going to carve them up like a First Contact Day salmon. I guess that was a kind of a future expression based on today's carve us up like a Thanksgiving Day turkey. Of course, First Contact Day, April 4th, the celebration of humans making... I'm sorry, April 5th, a celebration of humans making first contact with Vulcans.
But I thought Neelix said it wasn't pierogies that are what you serve on First Contact Day.
Different people celebrate differently. When all of Mariner's contraband is dumped out, it's a lot of stuff that we saw before, like the Saurian brandy and blood wine, and there's a tribble in there. But the one that I want to talk about that Commander Bilbus picks up, the best Easter egg ever. It is that goddamn stupid ass Spock helmet, this infamous toy that makes absolutely no sense. It's just like some dumb toy. Someone got like the Star Trek license and just slapped the word Spock on it. Put a Starfleet Delta on the side of it, and they're like, "Oh, it can sell like my stupid flashlight helmet as a Star Trek toy." That is now canon. That is now a proper canonical object from.
And it's
from
not
the Star
just
Trek
rubbish; it's a highly valued artifact that's worthy of stealing or is illegal in some way. Spock has spent his whole life trying to get rid of all of them.
We have a reference to Spock. Speaking of Spock, when Tendi says the goods of the many,
right,
and that is obviously a shout out to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So let's talk about the Titan. It is a Gorn nest full of Gorn eggs, but we have like the same Luna class design that was created originally for the Star Trek novels, but has been used in Star Trek Online. It's showed up in some of the IDW comics. And so all that stuff has never been considered canon. It is now canon. I love it because I love this design. Riker, when he first appears, his first words when he shows up on the view screen are "Red Alert." His Next Generation catchphrase, I guess. He also said that in Picard, in the first episode of Picard he was in. On the ship, we see he has a Saurian first officer, like Linus from Discovery. It's that same design. But Saurians have been around for a long time, but it's the kind of more updated look. When the Pakleds are getting their asses handed to them by the Titan, the Pakled commander says, "Make us go." That's how they talked in Next Generation. That's what they wanted Geordi to do, is to make them go. He fixes things, fix things and make us go. And the line that Brian, you mentioned, you agree with Captain Freeman when she says, "I hate it when a ship gets repaired and comes out looking all Sovereign class." Reference to the Enterprise E, the Sovereign class starship. Riker tells Carol Freeman, I'm calling her Carol, I should call her Captain Freeman, I guess. But he tells her that, you used to be like my Chadich. They're in the bar. It's almost identical to a shot we got in the first episode of Mariner with her arm around Boimler saying, "You'll be my Chadich." So yeah, they're the Boimler Mariner of the past, of like the I guess like the 2350s.
Yes,
like 25 years ago.
Yeah, the previous next generation.
Yeah. And when Mariner is all pissed off at Boimler for leaving and going to the Titan, she says, "I'll feed you to an Armis," a reference to the tar monster from Skin of Evil. And then on board the Titan in the final moments of the episode, Riker says, he basically says he was like watching Enterprise. He's like, "Oh, I was on the holodeck, checking out the first Enterprise, Archer and those guys." So he's like basically like he's saying he was watching the show, from the Enterprise episode. These are the voyages that Riker liked to go on the holodeck and watch historical documentaries, I guess, from the NX-01.
That was a Gorn Siamese twin egg. That was such a good...
They're going to the planet from the second episode of the show, Talgana 4, and they have a little Ryza. So Troy asked if they should bring the little Horgon. They're basically talking about the little Ryza district we saw in that episode, and there's a big Horgon there with this fountain thing that they had in the middle of the district. But so yeah, I guess they're gonna have some fun at Little Ryza, and of
apparently
course,
getting some people to help them with their Jamaha roam.
Yeah,
so
they're going to be
just a couples thing.
They're going to be they're going to be inviting people to join them.
Yes,
which is okay. Like they're going to spice things up. I like it. Sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Roddenberry would definitely approve.
A cool detail: they have wedding rings. They animated wedding rings on their hands.
Oh,
if you're watching a video of this, I have a shot pulled up where you can see Riker's hand with his wedding ring on his hand. Which they were wearing these in Star Trek Nemesis, so that was very cool that they remembered to do that.
Nepenthe, to give a little credit.
Oh, I didn't notice it in Picard, but I guess they did it there too. Cool.
Yeah, they're wearing them there too.
That's very cool. And the episode ends with Riker getting to say, "Okay, take us to warp at the factor of 5, 6, 7, 8." And he has like the jazz music playing. Because we know Riker was a jazz man. He played the trombone. And that was all of the Gorn eggs I found. Brian, tell me, what was the one that you thought I would miss?
Well, it's a stylistic thing. In Next Gen, even for most of Next Gen, they would go out of their way to shoot their view screens at funny angles to show off their 3D nature, and they would go to the trouble of shooting the whatever was supposed to show up on the view screen at those funny angles too, so that when they composited it in, if you were standing directly in front of the view screen, you'd see the front of the face, but if you stood off to the side of the view screen, you would see the side of the face, like the person is literally just standing on the other side of a window. And they did that trick a whole lot early in TNG and for most of TNG's run, but they kind of towards the end stopped bothering with that. And they stopped with, and Next Generation and Voyager usually didn't bother to try that trick at all.
DS9 and Voyager.
DS9, sorry, yeah. DS9 and Voyager really didn't try to push that trick very hard. I mean, I think the tech was still supposed to be there, but I think they found it was a pain to work with, to set up, and it looked a little weird because we still mentally think it's a flat screen, and we want it to look like it's a flat screen because we've seen what the picture should be distorted, not right. So, but when Mariner gets a call from her mom on the bridge of the Cerritos, she shows up, and it is very definitely doing that funny angle thing on the screen on the arm of her chair. And I was like, nice, they brought it back.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that counts as a good Gorn egg or not, but
sure, we'll go ahead and count that.
Nice.
But if I missed anything else, y'all be sure to let me know. And Starfleet Boy, I'm sorry for running so long, but I assume that we will have Starfleet Boy After Dark later tonight.
Yeah, we're going to start at 11 tonight, if that's okay with you, Father. I need time to make a drink.
So 11 o'clock Eastern. That's in about 13 minutes wherever you are now. If you're checking this out live,
make it 11:15 Eastern, guys.
Okay, 11
just to be on the same.
There we go. And 28 minutes wherever you are now. Set your clocks for 28 minutes, and you can hang out with us on Starfleet Boy After Dark. Also tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, please come check out Tex-Trek for a live stream. We will be talking about the Star Trek panel from New York Comic-Con, a lot of Lower Deck stuff and a lot of Discovery stuff as we get ready for Discovery Season 3 next year. And we'll be covering about that weekly. As far as we know, the plan is to continue doing these Friday night streams and go into...
Oh, and we're gonna do Thursday. We decided to stay on Thursday nights for Discovery on Starfleet Boys. So your wish came true.
Okay, so I guess TQIF will continue. We'll have more Starfleet Boy After Dark in the future. So
yes,
we're gonna keep the TQIF train going. But thank you everyone so much. Everyone who listens, everyone who watches, who has been on this crazy ride of Lower Deck Season 1 with us this year. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you stick around for Star Trek Discovery Season 3 because this is gonna be the wildest season of Star Trek. I have no idea if I'll love it, if I'll hate it, I don't know what to expect. This is gonna be some crazy stuff in this new season. So why not hang out with us and hear us talk about it, and watch us live if you can, and be part of the conversation in the chat. And we love to hear from you. But I think that's it. So I'll go ahead and sign us off. But until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.